Well, hey guys, welcome to the studio. Today, kind of a double whammy. We're going to try to take a drum track and get it to sound a little bit bigger and a little bit more polished, which means that we're going to be using multiband dynamics, one of the stock presets in Ableton. Sometimes this is known as a multiband compressor. There are versions of this that you can get for free out there, but we're going to use the stock Ableton one. And the second part of the double whammy is, how the heck do we control it? Because it's got so many parameters and some of them are hidden under sub menus. So you're kind of clicking around in menus to get at some of the parameters that we need. Enter this thing. This is an Akai MIDI mix. You can pick these things up for about $99. I think new they're probably $120, and you might recognize that as the close cousin of the Akai APC Mini, which is a dedicated controller for Ableton, so you can choose clips and trigger and all kinds of stuff. These things are the same size, and each one of them has 8 sliders that you can use to control the volume of 8 tracks, but you can pair them up and control 16 tracks at once with real faders, and you can do it for about $200. But we're going to concentrate on this one, and we're only going to be using the rotary knobs up top to get at all the parameters in multiband dynamics. Let's get to it. First, let's have a quick listen to what this thing is actually doing to our drum track. These are live drums. They would also work with a plug-in drummer. Here it is with it. And without it. And with it. And without it. Now here's the weird thing. You might be thinking, well, when it's on, the drum tracks are louder. But actually the peaks are quieter. Meaning I can sneak it into a mix without it triggering any peaks that might be setting off alarms while I'm doing my mix. Let's take a look at where they hide these sub-menus so we know what we're dealing with. Down in the bottom, they give you some multiple screens here. T, B, and A. And I can toggle between them. Right now I'm on T. I could go to B, or I could go to A. Now, what these things are actually doing is, T is for time. This is my attack and release time for each of the bands. Up top I have treble. In the middle I have mid-range, and down here I have bass. Well, if I want to control the attack and the release of each one of these, that's great. But as soon as I go to B, this is below compression, and A is above compression. And you'll notice I have different parameters here, different thresholds, different compression ratios. And if I needed to click around between these menus to alter things like the attack and release time, which are very important, or the ratios for my below compression or my above compression, well, I find myself chasing submenus to do this. But there's another way to do it. So what I did was I used MIDI Learn. It's a function in Ableton where I can just click on any parameter hiding in any plugin or anywhere actually in the DAW. And then I just fiddle with one knob on my controller, and it knows, hey, when I touch that knob, I really mean to control that parameter. Pretty easy. If you need a guide on that, there's some great videos around. MIDI Learn. But in our case, we've already done that. So I can take a look at some of the parameters I have in OTT, even the ones hiding under these submenus. And what I can do is I can say, well, I'm really looking at a bunch of stuff in the top row for treble, and then a bunch of stuff in the middle row for mid-range, and a bunch of stuff in the bottom row for the bass. And my controller has 3 rows of knobs. So I just mapped this to look like that. So over on the right-hand side, we have some global controls like output, and that's top right. I mess with this knob, I'm changing that parameter. Down below it, time. This is sort of an overall control for the attack times and the release times I have set up. And down here, amount, blend, how much of the OTT is actually coming in at any given time. My next row of knobs, well, here's treble output, here's mid-range output, and here's bass output. Nice to be able to fiddle with those. Here's where it starts getting cool though. Attack and release. For every one of these, treble and mid and bass, but I also have another set of controls over here for the top-down threshold. And you'll actually watch this red bar here move around. Now, normally I'd either have to go to above and control the parameter here for this, or I could click and drag this way. But let me go back to time and show you I actually have control over this. All right, there's my top-down compression. And then the next row of knobs over here, I got my bottom-up compression for treble and mid and for bass. And then finally, I have input volumes set up over here as well. I even have some of the mute buttons on the Akai set up to mute the treble, the bass, and the mids like this. You can see they're actually all on, so I'm hearing all of them. But with a click on here, I can turn them all off and I can turn them all on. That allows me to audition specifically what I'm doing on a different frequency. All right, let's start tinkering with it and see what it's actually doing. All right, we're going to start with this thing off and then I'm going to turn it on. I kind of have it dialed in, but I'm going to show you my workflow to get it to where it works like this. Here's off. And on. Okay, right out of the gate, I like to mess with these output controls over here. This is the bass output, the mid output, and the treble output, just to get a blend where I want it. Bass, mids, and treble. Okay, we're going to start with the bass. So I have it soloed here. And I'm going to mess around with the compression thresholds, both above and below, as well as the time. Quick attack, long attack, yeah, that quick attack really stomps on it. Now the bottom up compression is really helping it kind of keep thunderous. If I bring that down, ooh, too much. All right, let's check out the mids. Let me adjust that time a little bit. That's kind of cool. All right, now let's check out the highs. Mess with the attack. That's pretty cool. All right, let's bring them all in. So what I'm looking for is something absolutely huge, but something that's still pretty tight as much as I can do that. The final thing that I'm going to do is blend it in. Straight drums. And for fun, I'll just crank it all the way up. Ooh, way too much. But hold on. That's kind of cool right there. Let me audition by shutting it off. Without it. With it. A little bit better. It probably blended a little bit too high. But now is a good time for me to take a look at these three outputs for kick, mids, and treble and see what I want to add and what I don't want to add. Mids. Treble. Bass. Now, one thing I did not mention is sometimes I will have a couple hands on there at once doing something like the above threshold at the same time that I'm messing with attack times, or the level and the input at the same time to see if I can kind of get it to become almost more saturated sounding or that type of thing. So my ears are always on it. My hands are kind of all over the place. And if I was trying to do this with a mouse, it is possible. That's how I got to the point where I can use this effect in Ableton. But since I have a controller with 3 rows of knobs, and essentially it's giving you 3 lanes of things for the treble and the mid and the bass, it just really lined up. All right, the final thing that I want to do is I just want to check this in the mix and make sure that this is all still working for me. So here's some background that I have going on with these drums. Okay, let me shut off the multiband dynamics. Off. And on. Now, this is a good chance for me to kind of mess around once I got the mix in place with the synthesizers and the guitars to really see how it's fitting in the mix. One mistake that I used to make was to get something like the drums sounding really huge, and then there was no room for anything else. And that's why I use that blend knob so often in this. I can always dial it back to straight drums and kind of audition the changes that I made in multiband dynamics to get it to fit in the mix. And just taking a quick look here at Sweetwater, and they have these things for $109 right now. But if you keep your eyes peeled, sometimes they have a demo model. That's what I did. I nabbed it for 99 bucks. And I have one bonus trick for you. You saw me demo this on a complete drum set, and it's very effective. But the bonus trick is this. Though I might do that, I'm more inclined to take this effect and put it on the room mic and leave the normal drums pretty much untouched by it. Right now, we're only hearing this room mic recording. Okay, let me blend in the OTT. Off. On. Off. Now that trick that you saw where I'm only applying it to the room mic, that's where I tend to get the best effect from using something like multiband dynamics. Weirdly, not on the kit itself, but the room mic. If you want to know more about how we mic'd these drums, and we used mostly really cheap mics, and it's not even a good drum kit, it's an old Pearl export kit, I'll link the video below and you can see how we did the miking for it. Well, guys, I had a lot of fun putting this together. Here's the Akai MIDI mix, which is co-designed by Ableton, as these little mini products often are. And also, weirdly, the push was actually built by Akai. Huh. And push 2, I believe. I'm unsure about push 3. I imagine it's also built by Akai. But these companies really work well together. Interesting stuff. All right, guys, we got a lot of work to do. Let's get to it.